Hello, do you know what? I'm back in the studio, and I just had a problem today, and I thought I'd just mention it to you. I did do a video on it a while ago, and it was a very good video, and it showed how to, because I based it on what everybody else was doing and showed you how not to make the mistakes they were doing. I looked at it today and I thought, this is silly because I know what I'm doing, so let's have a fresh look at the problem. And this is what the problem is. You've got your lovely Chinese chair, and it goes up and down. You pull the lever, it's wonderful. But then that happens when you're sitting on it without pulling the lever, and then if you're really lucky, that happens. Now your knees are up by your ears, and you're thinking, well, what do I do? So you pull the lever, it goes back up. And after about 3 months, you get fed up with it. And at this point, you decide, well, I'll go and see if I can find something on YouTube about it. And believe me, you will find something on YouTube about it. There are hundreds of videos on it. And you look at this and you think, well, okay. And I can assure you, I watched a lot of these because I was going to do the last video, and most of them are, well, I would say dangerous. They certainly don't give you a particularly useful thing. In that one, you got people putting bits of stuff up, you've got people releasing gas, you've got people trying to repair stuff. It's all very, very iffy. You don't really want to be involved with it because there's a risk to life and limb. Oh look, there's a good one. See, gas strut fixed. That he knows what he's doing. But the rest of these, they are so variable, and you got people throwing stuff across rooms and all sorts of things. Well, so what I've done this time is I decided that I would do a video based on the fact that I just repaired it, and I thought, well, that was easier than last time, so I thought I'd actually take some pictures and join the pictures up and stick some words in, and you could actually see what was involved and why it wasn't as difficult as you'd have thought. And if you do have a problem that you can't fix using this video, you can go back and have a look at my previous video, which is up there, and you can decide whether to follow those steps, because even those are easier than what all the rest of those videos on there you've seen are. And yeah, let's try and keep it simple. It is not a major problem. I'm going to go into a little bit of detail on here, just so that you get an idea of, well, you know, what I'm talking isn't total rubbish and why there is a validity to it. And it's one of those things where it's not a difficult job if you just look at it in the right way. I do expect you to, of course, to be careful. If you hit yourself with a hammer, it's your fault. Don't blame me. This is the culprit. It's a gas strut. It's got pressurised gas and oil in that chamber. And the idea is that when you release the valve, the thing shoots up the top. And when you sit on it, you compress it, and then you release the valve, and you then allow it to come down again. Which is great, because all you're doing is allowing the gas to go between the two chambers within the unit. And this is what it looks like when you take one out. And I will explain why I've got that on there. The main reason I've got that on there is quite simple. It shows you where it was all being gripped by the chair. And it's a standard chair, it's a standard unit. You can buy the units from Amazon. And the one I've got there cost about 11 quid. But I bought this a year ago because I haven't been using it. Well, the chair, every time I bounced on it, it worked okay for a while. Because the valves, basically you've got a flap which you press, and the flap loses its seal. So if you press the button down, it moves the flap, and it allows it to go in either direction, which is fine, and the spring and all the rest of it. So, but if you if you're having one that's just being a little bit tricky, if you bounce on it, it sort of it forces it to seal, which has been great up until, well, let's just say it takes a while before you get annoyed with it. And I actually, because I'd done one before, I was putting it off, and then I thought, sorry, this is the start of a new year, I'm going to fix my chair. I've had the unit there for actually 9 months, so I'm going to fix it. And so I thought, well, okay, I'll do it. And now this is how I did it this time. You can see on here there is bruising to the top and bottom of it, and this is where the bottom fits. This is where the middle goes. It's the wheels, 5 spikes for the wheels. You can see clearly on here it looks silver, but that's what the top looks like. The bottom is what I showed you before. It's made of quite a high weight plastic, and the other end shoves into this bracket on the bottom of the chair, which is made of steel, and there's nothing else there. It's just a hole. People who are not that technically minded, but like to know a little bit how something works, this is what is normally done on a crankshaft, and it's from a motor. The sort of thing you have in your car. And you can see the big red arrow, that's pointing to that tapered bit of shaft. And what they do on there, that's where you stick your fan belt and things, but they just literally bash it on, squeeze it on. It's forced on with either a hammer or you do a bolt up and it pulls it on. And to get it off, you need to use what's called a puller. And that's normal, and it could be anything from a bulldozer to a moped. That's the way they have a habit of connecting these things. And so therefore, what I'm going to tell you is not unusual. What I did was I turned the chair upside down, I raised it so that it was just off the ground. The top of the chair was about 2 inches off the ground, and then I hit the bit in the middle. I was careful not to hit the plastic, but I just hit firmly the metal case that is the bottom of the strut. The tool I used for this was a plain simple hammer, claw hammer. The important bit about this one is that you hold the chair, literally the top of the chair is about that far, which is about 2.5, 3 inches, or what's that, it's about 10 centimetres above the ground. So you've got your arm round the chair, holding the wheels in your arm there, and then you just smack it down. The reason you need to have that much space is because you want it to actually drop. You don't want it absorbing the shock of when you're hitting the end with the hammer. But you don't want to have great distances, because then you have accidents. By having literally that far, which is basically a thumb, by having that much distance, when you hit it, it's going to drop, but it's not going to drop far, and you're not going to have to try and catch things. Nothing worse than having one bit going one way and another bit going another way. You're holding things. I did this in my kitchen. I've got a brand new cooker right next to me. I'm not going to have things flying. So, like I say, hold it up that far off the ground, what's that, half a face, and just put your arm around it and hit it. Simple. Now lay the chair on its back, nice and stable, and what you got to do now is get to the top end of the strut, but you can't because there is the plastic sleeving which is to stop you catching yourself in it. So what you got to do now is operate that lever, because you need that strut fully extended. Be careful, because if the strut isn't fully extended, it could go out with a pop. This is what you want to do. You want to be able to slide the plastic sleeves up so you can actually get to the middle of the strut. This is what I used. It's a self-gripping wrench, sometimes known as a mole grip over in the UK. But you could use one of these as pipe wrench. They're quite good. They will look on. But if you've only got something like this, I wouldn't bother too much, because they're not probably going to do it. Having gripped onto it there, you can see this is the actual one I did it, and this is the actual way I did it. I then just leant on it, and it just came loose from the top bracket. Magic. All you need to do is rotate the shaft within the top bracket, and it will pop out. Just be careful, and it will all work great.